Okay, today we're going to be dealing with primarily Chapter 23. Chapter 23 deals with price searcher markets with low entry barriers. Key thing is to recognize what's the difference between what we're getting into and what we've just been doing. Yeah.
Do I just sign next to this?
Yeah, just sign we're reusing the roll sheet, so just sign your name again. You want to be sure you understand the difference between what we've been doing, which is price taker markets, and what we're getting into now, which is price searcher markets. Remember, for price taker markets, you've got lots of very small firms. They're all selling identical products. End result is that each firm is a price taker. Each firm says, I am such a small part of the market that what I do has absolutely no effect on what the price is going to be. The market price is $10. This is the overall market. And what is relevant for me is a horizontal demand curve. I can sell 1 unit, 10 units, 100 units. I can sell as much as I want or as little. And what I do has no impact on what the market price is going to be. So the individual firm faces a horizontal demand curve. That demand curve is also his marginal revenue curve, because every time he sells an extra unit, his revenue goes up by $10. We said that the price taker wants to produce at the level of output where profit will be at a maximum. That's going to be where MR and MC are equal. That's going to be right here. It's Q star. That's the quantity of output that will give the firm the most possible profit. Will the firm produce at all? Well, we said the individual firm's supply curve is, be sure you remember this, because you're probably going to see a question specifically ask you what the firm's supply curve is. The firm's supply curve is its marginal cost curve down to and including the intersection with average variable cost. Not average total, average variable cost. So this curve down to there, that's the firm's supply curve. The market supply curve, what is that? That is the summation. It's the horizontal summation of all the individual firm supply curves. So if this were 90 units, if the number of firms in the market was 1,000, then we could say if the price is 10, you have 1,000 firms, each producing 90 units. So in total, the amount supplied by these firms is going to be 90,000. And this market supply curve is the summation of all the individual firm supply curves. So you look at firm 1, firm 2, all of them, add the quantities together for each price, and it gives you that market supply curve. The price is determined here. Each firm takes that price as a given and decides how much to produce. Right? Very important conclusions to draw from this model. Think about the incentives that firms have. Each firm has an incentive to keep its cost as low as possible, because if he can lower his cost, that increases his profit. Each firm has an incentive to produce the quantity that will give him maximum profit. We said each firm has an incentive to try to figure out what consumers want. Okay? Because if the firm can figure out, do a better job of figuring out what consumers want, or can find a way to lower the cost of producing that product and giving it to the customer, then the producer benefits. The key to thinking about all of this is that profit drives what the producer is doing. And when consumers really want something, it's going to be very profitable for firms to produce that. Okay? So as the firms are trying to get profits, they are also trying to do the best they can to give consumers what they want. Okay? We saw that in the long run, this is a long run equilibrium. It's going to look like this. It's going to be an average total cost curve that touches the demand curve at that point. In long run equilibrium, what's the relationship between price and average total cost? They're equal. And if they're equal, that means profit is zero. Why did that happen? Because if the price was above ATC, then firms were making positive profit. There would be entry. That entry would increase supply and push the price down. And I put up an announcement that summarized this. If you didn't see that, be sure to print it out and think about it. If the price is below ATC, you got the opposite. Firms are not covering their costs. They're losing money. And if that is happening, and if firms expect that to continue, then firms are going to start leaving the industry and have exit. Question?
Can you move it? Oh, I can't see it at all.
Move this.
Yeah, no, your stools and your things in the way. Sorry.
That's all right. If they're losing money, as they have here, when price is below ATC, firms are going to leave. When firms leave, what happens to market supply? If you got fewer firms, you're going to get less output. So it decreases. When this supply curve shifts to the left, what happens to the price? It goes up. Okay? So if the price is below ATC, then the price is going to go up, and you end up, the price is equal to ATC. Price is above average total cost, then you get entry, price is going to go down, and again, you end up where price and average total cost are equal, which means profit is zero. So that's the long run equilibrium. Given enough time for firms to enter and exit the market, this is where competitive markets, competitive price taker market will be pushed. Okay. Now,
in a competitive price taker market, it's always going to be the lowest number that's going to be I guess the marginal revenue. Like as competition.
in a price taker market, the price is determined by the market. The individual firm takes that price as a given. So demand will be horizontal, and that horizontal demand curve is also the marginal revenue curve. So for price taker markets, marginal revenue will always be equal to the price. Okay? For price taker markets, we're about to see that will not be true in the price searcher markets we're about to get into. Okay. The price taker market is very useful because it gives us a lot of insight into a lot of things that pertain to many real world markets. On the other hand, there are a number of things that we see in real world markets that we would not see in a price taker market. For example, have you ever gone into a store and they say our regular price is $5 for this product, but we're having a sale and we're selling it for something below the regular price? Well, yeah, that happens all the time. Would firms ever run that kind of sale temporarily lowering the price below the normal level in a price taker market. No. The reason you cut your prices so you can sell more. But in a price taker market, you don't have to cut your price to sell more. In that kind of market, you can sell as much as you want at the market price. So the price taker market cannot explain why firms sometimes run sales, why they cut their price.
I mean, would a price taker market be something like a school book, like a textbook for college?
Now, remember, it's a price taker market if you've got lots of small firms, and each firm is selling an identical product. So if you had 100 different bookstores that were all selling exactly the same book, okay, and it was just as easy to buy from one as from another, then that would be pretty close to a price taker market. But nearly bookstores, that's not going to be a price taker market. That may be the kind of market we're going to get into today. In many cases, it would be. Other things that you would not see in a price taker market would be differentiated products. Think about where you buy gas. Is the product you get there identical to the product you could get if you went to every other gas station in town? No. Now, I'm not just talking about the gas, because it's possible that if you analyzed it chemically, maybe the gas composition would be exactly the same thing. But you may say, you know, I generally go to this particular gas station because it's convenient. It's more convenient to me than the other 20 stations I could go to. Or I like it's well lit. I like going in there. Or they have a good convenience store there, so I can buy other things that I want. Right? Even though there are a lot of gas stations all selling gas, you probably have a preference for one over the other.
Like Walmart because it's cheap.
You can go to Walmart. There are many products you can buy it from Walmart, or you can buy it from Brookshire's. There are a lot of different places you could buy it from, and the actual product might be identical. You buy a can of Campbell's chicken soup from Walmart or from Brookshire's, probably going to be the same thing. But you may say, well, I know the can is going to be identical, but I can get into this store more easily, or I can check out faster, or I just like the environment in this store. I don't like the environment in that store. There are a lot of things that influence the choices that we make. So in most markets, the products are not identical. You don't have an unlimited number of options where they're all selling you exactly the same thing. You have a number of options, but the products are differentiated. One is a little bit different. Think about McDonald's and Burger King. Right? They're both selling hamburgers. Are they identical? No, there are some differences, and some people prefer one, some people prefer the other. They're differentiated products. You don't have that in a price taker market. So we'd like to have a model that will explain some of these things that we see in real world markets. Other things that we see in real world markets that we would not see in a price taker market. Price variation. If you left class today and then you drove around Alexandria looking at gas stations and writing down the price for unleaded gasoline, would you find that they're all selling exactly the same or charging exactly the same price? No, you see variation. Sometimes you'll see two stations right next to each other where one price is higher than the other. Okay? That would not happen in a price taker market. So we would like to have some explanation for why does that kind of thing happen. And finally, we also see advertising. Lots of products, lots of stores advertise. Why do they advertise? What are they trying to do?
So,
They want to be able to sell more. Would a price taker market, in a price taker market, would a firm ever advertise?
no.
In a price taker market, he can already sell as much as he wants to sell at the only price he can charge. So advertising would be pointless. And yet in the real world, we see lots of firms that do advertise. So we'd like to have a model that can explain some of these things that we do experience. And the second model we're looking at, we're going to call a competitive price searcher model. And in chapter 23, we're looking at a competitive price searcher model with low entry barriers. Chapter 24, on Wednesday, we'll talk about where you have price searcher markets with high entry barriers. Okay. So let me first give you the characteristics, the defining characteristics of this type of market. First thing, I have to tell you that there is another term that is used for this kind of model. Okay? I'm sorry to have to give you two different terms for the same model, but the reality is that there are some textbooks that use one, some that use the other. The term that is used in most textbooks for this type of model we're getting into is monopolistic competition. Monopolistic competition. What does it mean? It means competitive price searcher model with low entry barriers. Okay. I don't think this is an especially good label, okay? Because what does it seem to be emphasizing? Monopoly. And I think that's not a good way to focus your attention. I think this label is much better. This is what your textbook uses, okay? But you do need to remember that this term, this phrase, does refer to this kind of model. Okay, so what are the characteristics of this type of model? First, low entry barriers, just like with our price taker market. What does that mean? It means it's very easy for new firms to come in and start competing. It's very easy for firms to leave if they decide that they're not can't cover their costs. So no difference here between this model and the price taker market. Second, differentiated products. Price taker market, everybody's producing exactly the same thing, like wheat producers. Okay? In a price searcher model, products are differentiated. Even though you may have a lot of different firms producing the same product, those products are not exactly the same. They vary, just like Burger King and McDonald's. They're both hamburgers, they're substitutes for each other, but they're not exactly the same thing. And some people are going to prefer one, some people are going to prefer the other. Okay? Because the products are differentiated, what effect is that going to have on the demand curve? In the price taker market, demand was completely horizontal, because we said as long as the firm charges the same price as everybody else, he can sell as much as he wants to sell. There's no reason to cut his price. But with differentiated products, even though there are a lot of producers, there's nobody else selling exactly the same product as this producer. Okay? So if in this kind of market, if he wants to sell more, he can cut his price. If he raises his price, he's not going to sell quite as much. Okay? Because these products are differentiated, that means that there are good substitutes for each product, but there aren't perfect substitutes. If you, are there substitutes for eating at Burger King? Yeah, you can eat at Wendy's, McDonald's, you've got a lot of substitutes, but they're not exactly the same product, okay? And that means if Burger King raises its price, it's not going to sell as much. If they lower their price, they will sell more. Okay? So another characteristic of a price searcher market is that the demand curve is going to be negatively sloped. In order to sell more, the firm is going to have to cut its price. There are some big implications of that, as we'll see in just a second. Questions up on? All right. Let's think about the low entry barriers first, market. But think back to the significance of it. Okay, the low entry barriers, because it means if the price is above average total cost, then firms are making profit. And if the entry barriers are low, it means it's easy for outside firms to come in and start producing this product. So if the firms not in this market see that firms in this market are more than covering their cost, they're doing better than they can do anywhere else, what does that lead to? Entry. And that's going to have an impact on the price that can be charged. Okay? So the effect of the low entry barriers can be very similar to what we had with price taker markets. Remember the three questions we said every firm has to deal with. They have to decide what price are we going to charge, what quantity are we going to produce, and they have to decide whether to produce, whether to shut down temporarily, or whether to go out of business. Okay? Start with the last one. Whether to produce, shut down temporarily, or go out of business. Okay? That question will be answered exactly the same way for price searchers as for price takers. So everything we did before, no changes at all. Okay? What about the question of the price? Decide on the price the same way the price taker does. How does the price taker decide on the price?
The market looks at the
He says he looks at the market. What's everybody else charging? Right? And he says, I got to charge that. So there's really no decision there for the price taker. The price searcher faces this demand curve. For the price taker, demand looked like that. So no question about the price to charge. For the price searcher, what's the best price? Is it obvious?
lowest from the competitors.
I'm sorry?
Lowest price from the competitors.
He's not going to charge the lowest price. He's not going to charge the highest price. Okay. The question of what price to charge will be tied in with what quantity to produce. Okay, so we're not going to answer the price question quite yet. We'll answer it in just a minute as we look at the quantity question. For the price taker, we said he will get maximum profit by producing where what is equal to what?
Margin cost.
Marginal revenue equals marginal cost. That is true for every firm. And so for the price searcher firm, he wants to know at what quantity will my marginal revenue equal marginal cost. And it's not obvious from this demand curve. Okay? The marginal cost curve is going to look the same as for the price taker firm. No difference there. The big difference between price searchers and price takers has to do with marginal revenue. Okay? So for us to answer the quantity question and the price question, we got to figure out what is marginal revenue for a price searcher firm. Okay? So that's what we'll look at next.